I'm Leslie, 24. The air in the law office was thick, like a fog that carried the weight of unspoken words and long, held grudges. I sat at the end of the long, polished table, my eyes fixed on the small wooden box in front of me. It was the same box Grandpa had given me years ago, with strict instructions not to open it until this very moment. The door swung open, and in walked my mother, Helen, 52, a high-powered corporate lawyer with a sharp tongue and an even sharper sense of entitlement. She strutted in as if she owned the place, her designer heels clicking loudly on the marble floor. Behind her were my uncle, Robert, 50, a middle management executive who always thought he was smarter than he actually was, and his wife, Linda, 48, a stay-at-home mom who spent most of her time gossiping with the neighbors. My cousin, Jake, 26, a spoiled trust fund kid, followed them, wearing a sleek black suit and a smirk on his face. Mr. Thompson, my grandfather's attorney, cleared his throat. This is the last will and testament of Henry Miller, dated, notarized, and confirmed on his 90th birthday. His voice was calm and professional, but I could sense the tension in the room. Miss Leslie, would you please open the box now? Mr. Thompson asked. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for the box. I lifted the lid, and there it was, Grandpa's pocket watch, the one he wound every morning at 7 a.m. like clockwork. Beneath it lay a flash drive and a folded note. I slid the drive towards Mr. Thompson, and he plugged it into a small monitor. The screen lit up with Grandpa's weathered face. His voice filled the room, soft yet steady. If you're hearing this, I've already left this world. And if the people I think are in this room are actually here, well, I'm not surprised. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and Jake rolled his eyes. Grandpa continued, I, Henry Miller, leave the entirety of my estate, including shares of our tech startup, lifeguard, real estate assets, personal accounts, and intellectual property to my granddaughter, Leslie Miller. Everything. My uncle's jaw dropped, and my mother leaned forward, her face turning red with anger. This isn't legal. He must have been manipulated. She was with him every day. Who knows what she told him to turn him against us? Mr. Thompson held up a notarized form. Mr. Miller completed a cognitive evaluation 2 weeks before this recording. Full mental capacity confirmed. No coercion, no revision needed. Jake stood up, his face contorted with rage. You've got to be kidding. She was just a janitor. She lived off him. Grandpa's video went on, as if he could hear every word. To those who say she took from me, I say she gave me 7 more years. She gave me mornings with sunlight and coffee. She gave me meaning. You gave me silence. You left me to die because I was inconvenient. She stayed and built something. Not just a company, a life. My mother's face paled, and for a moment, she was speechless. Mr. Thompson folded the will with precision. There are no alternate beneficiaries. No contest clause is included. Any legal challenge will void your right to inherit anything. Henry Miller's wishes are absolute. Leslie Miller is the sole heir. As they left one by one, my mother turned to me, her voice low and venomous. You think this makes you better than us? You manipulated an old man on his deathbed and tricked him into signing everything over. I stared at her, the woman who had once told me I was wasting my life on a man who wouldn't make it through the night. You left him, I said calmly. You left both of us. And for 7 years, you never once called to ask if he'd even survived. My uncle stepped in, his voice forceful. We're his children, Leslie. You don't get to erase that. I turned to him. And what exactly did that title mean to you? A duty, a bond, or just a birthright you thought guaranteed a payday? Jake snapped. We'll go public. We'll tell the press you manipulated a dying man with dementia. I smiled, not because I was amused, but because I was ready. Go ahead, and I'll release the full unedited footage of Grandpa's testimony, his medical evaluations, his daily journals. I'll publish his handwritten letters about what each of you did or didn't do when he needed you most. Let the world see the kind of family you really were. They fell silent. I reached into my bag and pulled out one last envelope. This, I said, handing it to my mother, was written by him a month before he passed. It's not legal. It's personal. She hesitated, then opened it. 3 words, handwritten in Grandpa's sharp, steady script. You walked away. Her hands trembled, and she crushed the note in her palm. I turned to leave, but paused at the door. You lost the inheritance, but worse than that, you lost him. And the truth is, you lost him long before he died. I didn't take anything from you. You gave it all up the day you chose convenience over love. As I walked out into the sunlight, I remembered the day it all began. I was 17, standing in the hospital hallway, clutching Grandpa's medical chart in one hand and my half-empty wallet in the other. The doctor had just told us that the treatment would cost over $100,000, with less than a 10% chance of recovery. My family didn't cry. They didn't argue. They just looked at each other and left. My mother's words were final. Let the old man go. He's lived long enough. We're not throwing money into a black hole. I was angry, terrified, and broke, but I couldn't let Grandpa die alone. I emptied my college savings, money I had scraped together from scholarships and summer jobs. I signed the repayment forms, feeling like I was signing my life away. I called the HR office downstairs and begged for a job. Any job. By 6 p.m., I was scrubbing floors in the pediatric wing. By 10 p.m., I was back at Grandpa's bedside, holding his hand as the machines beeped and buzzed around us. He didn't wake up for 3 days. When he finally did, his voice was weak, his eyes watery. But the first thing he whispered was, "You stayed." I nodded, tears blurring my vision. Always. Over the next few weeks, Grandpa's recovery was nothing short of a miracle. At first, there were just small signs, his fingers twitching, a flutter of his eyelids. Then, one afternoon, as I was spoon-feeding him broth, he said, "Too salty." I froze, and then he smiled. "You've always been terrible at seasoning." We moved into a tiny 2-room apartment across the street from the hospital. It was a dump with chipped paint and a rattling heater, but it was home. During the day, I worked hospital shifts and took GED classes online. At night, Grandpa taught me how to fix things. He'd hand me a soldering iron and say, "Most people throw stuff out when it breaks, but if you understand how something works, you can rebuild it." That goes for machines, and it goes for people, too. One evening, as I replaced a broken switch in our microwave, he nodded approvingly. "You know, you've got the mind of an engineer." I shook my head, saying I was just a janitor who didn't want to burn soup. But secretly, I let that compliment sink in. Money was tight. I worked double shifts, cleaning the hospital at night and assisting at the supply desk during the day. I skipped meals sometimes so Grandpa could have a better one. He hated that, so he made me a deal. He'd teach me everything he knew: mechanics, basic programming, blueprint reading, if I promised to charge people for the work. By the 3rd month, we had a shoebox full of cash labeled repair fund. By the 6th month, the neighbors were knocking on our door, asking for help with their appliances and wiring. Word spread, and soon we were known as the duo who not only fixed things but cared. One night, while patching up an old toaster, Grandpa said, "You don't need their name to build your own." I looked at him, confused. "Whose name?" He didn't answer, just kept working on the toaster. That year, I earned my GED. The following summer, I was accepted into a part-time tech program for women in STEM. I almost didn't apply, thinking I didn't belong. But Grandpa said, "The people who belong aren't the ones born into rooms. They're the ones who build doors." Grandpa and I built a prototype for an emergency fall sensor in our garage. It was simple, wearable, and affordable. We tested it for months, with Grandpa even falling around the kitchen to help. We pitched the design to a local clinic and they loved it. We named the project Lifeguard. By year 5, we were registered as an LLC. By year 6, we had contracts with 3 elder care facilities in the state. And by year 7, our devices were protecting over 10,000 senior citizens. Grandpa became our advisor, our mascot, and our favorite test subject. But more than anything, he was my anchor. Every decision, every late night design session, he was there. Then his health began to fail again. It was slower this time, gentler. He still drank his morning coffee, still gave me feedback on my code, still smiled when I walked into the room. But we both knew this time, he wasn't going to recover. He passed away on a Tuesday morning. I found him in his chair by the window, a closed book in his lap, a half-drunk cup of tea by his side, and a faint smile on his face. The funeral was small, just like he wanted. As I stood at the edge of the churchyard, thanking people as they left, I heard the sound of expensive heels on gravel. I turned and saw them. My mother, uncle, aunt, and cousin. My mother opened her arms, as if the past 7 years hadn't happened. "Leslie, sweetheart, you've grown into such a woman." I didn't move, didn't speak. After the service, she came up to me again with that tight smile. "So, about the estate. We assume there's a will. Your grandfather wasn't careless." I met her eyes, emotionless. "There is." Her smile widened. "Wonderful. We'll need to discuss how everything will be divided." That's when I finally spoke my mind, and the rest, as they say, is history. 6 months later, the house was quiet, but not lonely. I still wound Grandpa's pocket watch every morning at 7 a.m., a ritual that made me feel close to him. I used a portion of the inheritance to launch the Miller Foundation, with a mission to provide technical training and emotional support to teens and elderly individuals who had been abandoned. One day, when I know someone else is ready, I'll pass on the pocket watch. And I'll say what Grandpa once told me. "You stayed. You built. And now it's yours."